Mark leaned closer. So where's Daniel? Haven't seen him around lately. Before I could answer, Danny spoke, her voice soft but steady. He's not here anymore. Mark tilted his head, studying her. For a moment, I thought he'd laugh or worse, sneer. But instead, he gave a little chuckle and muttered, "Well, that explains a lot," before turning back toward his yard. I closed the door quickly, my heart pounding. Danny collapsed into a chair, clutching her skirt. "He knew," she whispered. "Emily, he knew." I knelt beside her. "Maybe. But he didn't say anything cruel, did he?" "You held your ground, Danny. That matters." Her eyes shimmered with a mix of fear and pride. "I don't want to hide anymore. Not in my own house." The following Friday, I told Rachel what had happened. She frowned, tapping her nails against her glass. "Neighbors talk, Emily. And if Danny isn't ready for whispers and stares, it could crush her confidence." "She doesn't want to hide," I said firmly. Rachel sighed. "Then you need to prepare her. Because the world isn't always kind." The real test came 2 weeks later. Rachel invited us to a small dinner party with a few of her friends. Danny was nervous but determined. She wore a lavender dress, simple earrings, and a touch of lip gloss. At first, the evening went smoothly. The other women chatted about work, fashion, and vacations, and Danny listened intently, even adding small comments here and there. But then one of Rachel's friends, a sharp-tongued woman named Megan, tilted her head and asked, "So, Danny, what do you do? I mean, what's your story?" The table went silent. Danny's fork trembled in her hand. This was it, the moment where her carefully built courage could shatter. She took a breath. "My story." She looked straight at Megan. "I used to live someone else's life. It didn't fit. So now, I'm living mine." The table erupted into polite applause and encouraging nods. Except Megan, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing more. Later that night, as we walked home, Danny whispered, for the first time, "I felt like me. Not Daniel. Just me." And I knew then, the cracks in her mask weren't weaknesses. They were the beginning of her true face breaking through. Danny had grown braver inside our home, and even in small circles like Rachel's dinner party. But there was still one place she hadn't dared to face, the wider world, crowded and unforgiving. That chance came unexpectedly. It started when my younger sister, Claire, called. "Emily, we're having a family barbecue this Saturday. You have to come." It's been ages. I hesitated. Claire didn't know anything about Danny yet, at least, not this Danny. But Danny overheard the call. She stepped into the room, her face pale but determined. "I want to go." "Are you sure?" I asked. "My family can be blunt." Danny nodded. "If I keep hiding, I'll never grow. And I can't keep pretending Daniel still exists. Not to them. Not to anyone." Her voice was steady, but I could see the tremor in her hands. All week, Danny prepared as though she were heading into battle. She practiced her makeup in the mornings, changing her look until it felt natural. She tried on outfits every night, pacing in front of the mirror until she found one that made her stand taller, a soft cream blouse tucked into a flowing skirt, paired with low heels. "You look beautiful," I told her on the morning of the barbecue. She swallowed hard, staring at her reflection. "I just hope they see me the way you do." The smell of grilled food hit us as soon as we stepped into Claire's backyard. Laughter, chatter, the clinking of glasses. My nieces and nephews ran across the grass, while uncles and cousins crowded around the grill. At first, no one noticed. Then Claire spotted us. "Emily," she cried, rushing over with open arms. But when her eyes landed on Danny, her smile faltered. "And who's this?" Danny froze, gripping my hand. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath. "This is Danny," I said firmly. "She's family." Claire's gaze flicked between us, confusion dawning. "Wait, is this?" "Yes," Danny said suddenly, her voice shaking but clear. "I used to be Daniel. But I'm not him anymore." The entire patio fell silent. Even the children stopped playing. It was Uncle Peter who broke the silence with a scoff. "What kind of nonsense is this? Playing dress up? Emily, have you lost your mind?" Peter, Claire began, but he waved her off. Danny's face burned crimson. I thought she might crumble, but instead she lifted her chin. "I'm not a joke," she said, her voice trembling but strong. "For years, I lived in a body that didn't feel like mine. And for years, I disappointed everyone, including myself. But now, I finally feel like I'm becoming who I was meant to be. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem, not mine." Gasps rippled through the group. For a moment, Peter looked like he would explode. But then, to my shock, Claire stepped forward and wrapped Danny in a hug. "I don't understand everything," she said softly. "But I can see you're happy. And that's enough for me." Not everyone was convinced that day. Peter stormed off muttering under his breath, and a few cousins kept their distance. But others, like Claire and even my mother, found quiet moments to speak with Danny, asking questions, listening without judgment. On the way home, Danny sat quietly in the passenger seat, staring out the window. "You were incredible," I said. She shook her head. "I was terrified. That's what makes it incredible. You didn't let fear stop you." For the first time, she smiled a small, tired smile, but real. "Maybe I really can live like this." Out loud. The family barbecue had been a turning point. For the first time, Danny had stood up for herself, claiming her identity in front of people who remembered her only as Daniel. She left shaken but proud, and that pride carried into the days that followed. But pride alone couldn't fill a future. Danny needed something more, a life that wasn't tied to me, to the house, or even to Rachel's encouragement. She needed to stand on her own. It started one morning when Danny looked up from the kitchen table, a newspaper folded in her hands. "Emily," she said, her voice unusually firm, "I think I should get a job." I blinked at her. "A job? You haven't worked in years." She nodded. "Exactly. I don't want to be the person who hides at home anymore. I want to see if the world will see me as Danny." I hesitated. The thought terrified me, not because I didn't believe in her, but because I knew how cruel strangers could be. Still, I saw the determination in her eyes, and I couldn't bring myself to say no. "All right," I said softly. "But we'll take it step by step." Danny applied to half a dozen part-time positions, cafes, bookstores, boutiques. Most didn't respond, but one little bakery downtown invited her for an interview. The morning of, she dressed carefully, a pale pink blouse, dark skirt, and simple flats. She applied a touch of makeup, but not too much, rehearsing every line she might say. As we walked to the bakery together, her hands shook so much that I held one tightly. "You don't have to do this," I whispered. "Yes, I do," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear. Inside, the bakery owner, a warm-eyed woman named Marjorie, greeted us. At first, her gaze lingered on Danny, as if she were trying to place something. Then she smiled. "So, Danny, tell me why you want to work here." For a heartbeat, Danny faltered. Then, taking a deep breath, she said, "Because I want to start fresh. I know what it's like to struggle, to be lost. But I've found myself again. And I want to build something real, even if it starts small." Marjorie studied her for a long moment before nodding. "You know, we could use someone who understands resilience. Can you start next week?" Danny nearly cried with relief. When I told Rachel the news, she practically squealed. "A job? This is huge. She's finally building her own life." Danny smiled shyly. "I'm terrified." "That's the point," Rachel replied. "Growth always feels like terror at first." The following Monday, Danny stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her blouse for the 10th time. "Emily," she whispered, "what if the customers see right through me? What if they laugh?" I hugged her. "Then you'll smile, serve them their bread, and keep going. You don't need their approval to be Danny." She took a deep breath, then nodded. That afternoon, I stopped by the bakery to see how she was doing. Danny stood behind the counter, carefully wrapping loaves of bread, chatting with a customer. And then I heard it. The woman smiled at Danny and said, "Thank you, miss." Miss. It was such a small word, but the way Danny's shoulders lifted told me it was everything. Later, as we walked home, Danny whispered she didn't see Daniel at all. She just saw me. And for the first time, I realized that Danny wasn't just becoming. She already was. The bakery quickly became Danny's second home. She loved the smell of fresh bread in the mornings, the quiet hum of chatter from regular customers, and the rhythm of simple work that kept her busy and fulfilled. But what she cherished most was how normal it felt. For once, people weren't seeing Daniel. They were seeing Danny, just another woman behind the counter. At least, most of them. Her coworker, Sophie, was the first to extend a hand of friendship. On Danny's second week, Sophie leaned over while restocking muffins and whispered, "That blouse is gorgeous, Danny." "Where'd you get it?" Danny blinked, startled, then whispered back, "Thrift shop, second hand." Sophie grinned. "You've got an eye. We should go shopping together sometime." The invitation sent Danny floating for the rest of the day. She came home buzzing, telling me every detail. For her, it wasn't about the blouse, it was about being seen as one of the girls, but not everyone saw her that way. One slow afternoon, Danny stepped into the stockroom to grab more flour. As she turned the corner, she froze. Two other coworkers, Mara and Lydia, were whispering. "Did you see her hands?" Mara muttered. "Too big. Totally fake." Lydia snickered. "Yeah, and that voice? Please. She's just playing dress up." Poor Sophie doesn't even notice. Danny's chest tightened. She backed away before they noticed her, clutching the bag of flour as though it could shield her. When she got home that night, she collapsed on the couch, silent tears streaming down her face. "They don't see me, Emily," she whispered. "Not really. They just see him, hiding in my skin." I wrapped my arms around her. "Then prove them wrong. Every day you walk in there, every smile you give, every customer who sees only Danny, that's proof." Her breathing steadied, but I could see the crack in her confidence. The next morning, Danny walked into the bakery with her head held high, though her hands trembled. She focused on her work, refusing to look Mara or Lydia in the eye. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. Mid-shift, a group of teenagers came in, rowdy and loud. One of them pointed at Danny and laughed. "Yo, is that a dude in a dress?" The bakery fell silent. Danny froze, every muscle in her body screaming to run. Sophie's eyes darted toward her, waiting to see what she'd do. For a moment, the world tilted back to fear, back to Daniel. But then Danny inhaled, straightened her shoulders, and stepped forward. "Your order," she asked calmly, her voice steady. The teen snickered, but, faced with her composure, they mumbled something about croissants. Danny served them without faltering, even offering a polite "have a nice day" as they left. When the door closed behind them, Sophie broke the silence with a soft clap. "That was amazing." Even Mara and Lydia looked unsettled, guilt flickering across their faces. That night, Danny recounted the story with trembling hands, but shining eyes. "They tried to strip me down," she whispered. "But I didn't let them. For once, I stood my ground." I kissed her forehead. "That's because you're Danny. No one can take that from you." Her smile was fragile but radiant, the kind of smile that said she was no longer just pretending, she was becoming someone who could survive the world, even when it pushed back. By the end of her first month at the bakery, Danny had settled into a rhythm. Customers smiled, Sophie treated her like a sister, and even Mara and Lydia had grown quieter with their whispers. But Sophie wasn't content to keep Danny hidden away behind the counter. One afternoon, while wiping down tables, she grinned and said, "Okay, Danny. No excuses. You're coming out with us Friday night." Danny blinked. "Out? Where?" "Just a girls' night," Sophie said breezily. "Drinks, dancing, maybe karaoke. You'll love it." Danny's heart nearly stopped. A night out meant crowded bars, strangers' stares, and 1,000 chances for disaster. But Sophie's hand was already on hers. "Trust me. You'll fit right in." All week, Danny fretted. She tried on outfit after outfit, pacing the bedroom until piles of rejected skirts and dresses covered the bed. "I can't do this," she whispered one night, staring at her reflection. "What if I don't pass? What if everyone stares?" I stepped behind her, resting my chin on her shoulder. "Then they'll stare at a beautiful, brave woman who's living her truth." Finally, she settled on a sleek black dress that hugged her figure in just the right way, paired with simple heels and a silver necklace. When she turned to me nervously, I smiled. "Danny, you look stunning." The bar Sophie chose was alive with music and laughter, neon lights glowing across the walls. As Danny stepped inside, her heart pounded so loud she thought everyone could hear it. But Sophie hooked an arm through hers and pulled her straight to a booth where two other women, Jenna and Maya, were waiting. "This is Danny," Sophie announced. The women smiled warmly. "Nice to meet you," Jenna said. "Sophie's been talking about you nonstop." For the first time that evening, Danny's nerves softened. She wasn't being questioned. She wasn't being judged. She was being welcomed.